Good day, class. This week, we're looking at more employee benefits. Okay. So, as an HR rep or from the perspective of HR, it's always important that we address some additional employee benefits that will help the employees perform better and, kind of keep their mind at ease about some of the ancillary things that go on in life, right? It's just not about the monetary compensation. It's about the additional things such as insurance, time off, some other things that can also be packaged into a compensation, um, package. So having some good employee benefits that aren't monetary but add value to the person's life also can also be leveraged when we're talking about providing employees with compensation, right? So some employee benefits, really help attract, retain, and motivate employees, right? Uh, Employees have come to expect that benefits will help them maintain economic security, but benefits impose significant costs, right? Employers want to give out benefits, but they also want to keep the cost in mind. Every time an employer gives out benefit, it's a reduction in their bottom line because now it becomes a cost and it's very expensive to provide some of the benefits. So you'll see that each organization will vary on the benefits that they do offer. Right. So here's a figure that represents the amount of total compensation as far as benefits goes as years have progressed. Okay, from 1928 to 2017, as you can see, had a substantial increase, right? From 1928, kind of the beginning, to our industrial revolution and that kind of thing, right? And the understanding that it's more, it's more than just monetary compensation that is important to employees, right? And so you can see that reflected in the graph. All right, some benefits are required by law. Okay, tax laws can make benefits favorable to employees. Employers can get volume discounts on insurance, and creative packages make companies competitive. So, um, some things, mandated by the federal government that companies have to provide, right? um, some of the tax laws that are on the books can be a benefit to employees, right? If used properly. Okay, employers, in because they have to spend so much on employee benefits, a lot of the big companies that provide insurance and provide mutual funds and provide, retirement funds to the organizations, they will give them a discount based on volume. Okay, so if you talk about volume, the more you buy, the more you purchase, or the more people you have to cover, the bigger the discount, right? The price goes down a little bit more and more because the insurance companies can dollar cost average a whole lot better with a higher volume, right? So it turns out to be a little more favorable for them also, right? Some ones that are required by law, right? Social Security, right? Flat payroll tax on employees and employers. And when it comes to Social Security, both parties pay in a certain amount, okay? You pay in a certain amount as an employee, the employer pays in a certain amount as the employer into the Social Security bank. And then that gets managed by the government, who in turn turns around and provides Social Security when you reach Social Security age 65, I believe. If you take it when you're supposed to, 67, if you take it a little bit later. Okay. All right. Unemployment insurance, payroll tax on employers that depend on state requirements and experience rating, workers' compensation insurance, family medical leave, and healthcare. Okay. For employers with at least 50 employees, payment of a fee to the federal government if the employer does not meet conditions for providing healthcare insurance benefits. Okay. And so for organizations, they have to have insurance or provide healthcare if they have 50 or more employees. Okay. We had the the rule, the Health Care Act, and at one point, employees were mandated to have health insurance, and didn't have it, they'd have a tax break or tax penalty, excuse me. And so, because of that, um, you know, it was really becoming a burden on employees, and they felt that it was unfair, especially the younger folks felt that it was unfair to have to pay a tax or have to have health insurance when they probably, in all reality, wouldn't probably use it as much as maybe the older folks. Okay, but at the end of the day, organizations have to have healthcare policies and healthcare options if they have at least 50 employees. Right. So if we go talking about Social Security here, okay, Social Security has a couple of different elements to it, categories to it, right? You have your old age retirement insurance, okay? That's the one you get whether you're 65 or 67, once you that age range. Survivor's insurance, that's basically insurance that one of the spouses dies, then there's this insurance policy that kicks in that your spouse gets, some amount of money to help offset some of the costs and the loss of that particular income. Disability insurance, just like it says, if something is wrong, the person, becomes disabled or hurt on the job, or, is incapable of working, then they get disability insurance. Hospital insurance and supplementary medical insurance, Medicare Part A and Part B, right? Basically, coverage that helps you pay your hospital bills, pharmacy bills, that kind of thing, right? And there's different programs within those particular different parts of the program, right? So all those categories fall into Social Security. Unemployment insurance, right? Fairly mandated program, minimizes employment hardship. Okay, most funding comes from taxes on employees, right? So when you hear someone saying they're getting unemployment, that's what they're getting. They're getting unemployment insurance, right? And so it's really to help people in a time when they have no employment, but they're seeking employment. And that's really the key when it comes to unemployment, is that you are actively looking for a job and you are, having a little trouble finding one. So we're going to uh, give you some money to help you, make it through until you get another job. The thing with unemployment insurance is that it's not the full pay, right? It's a portion of what you were getting to a certain degree. Okay, so you make it $100,000, you're not going to get $100,000 in unemployment insurance. It doesn't work that way, right? You'll get some pre-established amount based on what you were making before. I'm sure there's a cap. Not familiar with all the details of unemployment, but I do know that it's not your full employment, and it's for a certain period of time. It's not infinite or a perpetual benefit. Okay. To receive the benefits, workers must meet 4 conditions: demonstrate they were employed, available for work, actively seeking work, were not discharged for cause, did not quit voluntarily, and are not out of work because of a labor dispute. All right. So you got to meet all this criteria in order to get insurance or an employment if you are not working. Workers' comp state programs provide benefits to workers who suffer work-related injuries and illnesses and to their survivors, right? Operate on the principle of no fault liability. Employer does not need to show that an employer was grossly negligent in order to receive compensation. Employer is protected from lawsuits, generally 2/3 of workers' earnings and tax-free. Okay, so basically, workers' comp is really about providing some relief for those who get hurt on the job. Okay, and it doesn't mean that um, that the employer, did something wrong, or it just sometimes just mistakes happen that are innocent mistakes, or accidents just happen, in other ways, and it doesn't need to be, a demonstration that the employer did something that was just negligent and not correct, right? And it says employees protected from lawsuits, right? Because you don't want a bunch of lawsuits going down because someone got hurt on the job. And a lot of times it may be due to their own, doing. It may not be anything, that the company could have done. If it's a person's own lack of training or lack of understanding or just their own negligence, right? And so, the workers' comp protects employers from lawsuits. As I said, generally 2/3 of workers' earnings and tax-free, okay? And that's the key right there. 2/3 of your earnings and tax-free. Again, not the whole amount that you would normally get, but it's something, and it's also tax-free. So it kind of balances out in a kind of certain, type of way. Okay, 4 major categories of benefits: disability, income, medical care, death benefits, and rehabilitative benefits. The costs are influenced by kind of occupation involved, state where company is located, and employer's experience rating. I apologize for the fire trucks and the ambulance. We'll give it a minute here. Okay. So depending on the, where you're at, okay, the type of job it is, and the employer's, experience rating. So basically, how long have they been in existence? How long have they been doing what they're doing? What is their length or depth of their experience, right? All those factors go into estimating how much it costs companies to get workman's comp, right? So that's an important facet of, getting compensation for your workman's comp for your people, right? And so the longer you've been around, the less it's going to cost you for workman's comp because experience is going to kick in. But you could also be in a industry that's very hazardous, right? Construction, drilling, there's manufacturing, working in a plant around a lot of mechanical machines and that kind of thing, right? Even farming to a certain degree, right? So all those things go into consideration, right? The next benefit is the Family Medical Leave Act, right? FMLA. Organizations with 50 or more employees provide up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave, right? In the situations of childbirth or adoption, to care for seriously ill family members, for employees' own serious illness, right? And so all these particular categories um, make you eligible for FMLA. And it's a good thing to have if you have, the the funds, the savings to take FMLA. And that's really the biggest hindrance FMLA is that it's unpaid leave. It's 12 weeks. That basically equates to about 3 months of, being off and not getting paid. And so in many instances, people will not use FMLA because they want to get paid. They need to sustain their life, unless there's some other means in which they have income, access to income. They're not, FMLA is really a stretch for a lot of folks. Same comparable job guaranteed upon employer's return, must comply with Pregnancy Discrimination Act, right? And so when you use FMLA, you basically are sure that your job's not going anywhere. You're just taking time because you're sick or someone else in your family is sick or you just had a baby. FMLA is definitely used in some other instances, but for the most part, folks try to, use up some of their, paid sick leave and that kind of thing till they can't anymore. And then after that, they will transfer over to the FMLA if necessary. Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Wow, that was a real struggle right there. Employers not required by law to provide health care, okay? Those who choose not to pay must pay penalties. So that's gone, right? That is not well, let me say it's gone. It's not gone. It's gone on the employee side, not on the employer side. Okay. So that's still there, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Choice depends on the number of full-time employees. Small business can buy insurance from shop. Okay. Law is complex and changing. HR professionals continue to educate themselves on the requirement. So you can really tell that this particular facet of our healthcare system is always in flux, because it's employers don't have to provide healthcare, but many of them do. Again, depending on the number of employees they have, how much it's going to cost them. But it's a very big incentive that employees look for, when they're looking for a job. Okay, they want healthcare. All right, so let's look at this figure here. What is this figure about? This figure is about percentage of full-time workers with access to selected benefit programs. So 88% of employees have access to medical care, life insurance, retirement plans, paid vacation, paid holidays, and sick leave. So pretty good, percentage of most workers have access to these benefits, right? You can tell the lowest one is life insurance. And life insurance, some people get it, some people don't. Not everyone feels, the need to have life insurance. It's not that big a deal for some folks. As you can tell, medical care and paid holidays and paid vacation are right up there, as far as people having those things, because they're the most used and the most flexible. If something comes up, see, especially paid vacation, it's right up there with medical care, right? So very important stuff. And this information is somewhat dated, so I'm sure it's probably more at this point. Okay, so here's some other optional benefits programs, right? Paid leave, right? Not everybody provides paid leave. Okay. Average paid leave in US is 22 vacation days and 10 paid holidays. Sick leave days that accumulate with length of service, right? Personal days, floating holidays, and PTO options. Okay. So in America, people don't take vacations. You'll find that on average, many folks have accumulated a lot of vacation days, and haven't taken them. The paid holidays are different. Okay. Most folks definitely, when it's a holiday, they don't have to go to work. They won't go to work. So we have that. That's for everyone. But the vacation days, people accumulate those, but they don't always use them. All right. And so they just end up going to waste. All right. Let's look at some group insurance here. Medical insurance, right? 7% of all full-time employees in the U.S. receive medical benefits. Policies typically cover hospital expenses, surgical expenses, and visits to physicians. Additional coverage, dental, vision, birthing centers, prescription, right? So if you look at the insurance package, okay, you see 70% of full-time employees receive medical benefits. That's a huge cost. Think about, if you go to the doctor or if you've been to the doctor, how much it costs you to go to the doctor and to seek medical treatment. And then multiply that by 50, 60, and then depending on the severity of what your ailment is, the cost could be astronomical. And so companies tend to make sure that their insurance is as cheap as possible. And that's why, some people have certain types of insurance and they won't be able to do certain things because their coverage only covers, a certain amount of things and doesn't necessarily provide some higher level things without an additional cost. Okay. Some other stuff, dental care and vision, right? Those are extremely important, right? And additional coverage that people look for, and the prescription drug programs, right? Because prescription drugs are very expensive, and so you'll find that employees are always seeking policies that have some concessions for prescription drugs. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is COBRA, the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. Employers required to allow employees to extend health insurance coverage at group rates for up to 36 months after layoff, reduction in hours of employees' death. Right. And so this is kind of a contingency insurance plan in case that the business closes its doors or has to lay people off and they can't afford the regular insurance, COBRA will cover those employees for up to 3 years after the effective date of the layoff. Okay, and so this provides people with some insurance in the event that the company cannot afford it because of their own financial demise or bankruptcy or just a reduction in force. All right, employer approaches to controlling health costs, right? You got your managed care, you got your HMOs, your PPOs, um, CDHPs, employee wellness program. These are all different types of healthcare organizations that really work on volume and bulk, right? And so, depending on the level of care that you're looking for, what your um, budget is, you can, get into one of these particular programs, right? But at the same time, your employer will provide, one of these options to you, right? They may deal with just HMOs or PPOs, right? PPOs are a little more pricey because they give the employee a few more options. HMOs are basically, are worked off of volume, okay? So the more people I get to see, uh, the that's how I kind of balance out the cost for my company. Okay. Now I would say about the health organization, take a look at each one because sometimes they all different, and depending on what you need, you may get an HMO because you don't go to the hospital very often. You don't get sick very often. You're younger. You get older. PPO might be more attractive just because it provides you more options. At a cost that is maintainable. Okay, I can actually pay this and see the doctor I want to see, or some of these other different things, specialists and that kind of thing. Okay. Next, optional employee benefits, life insurance. All right, employees may provide life insurance or offer the opportunity to buy coverage at low rates. Term life insurance: if employee dies during term policy, beneficiaries receive a death benefit payment. Right. So the difference between term insurance and whole life insurance. Okay. So when you talk about term is just that it's for a certain amount of time, 2, 3 year blocks, depending, or maybe it's annually. You're covered, and then you have to renew it. It's like a subscription, right? Well, whole life is a little different. Well, whole life you pay into the insurance policy, and that money actually grows and accumulates. And sometimes you can, you um, borrow off of that, or if you decide to terminate your policy, you usually get a portion of those monies back. Okay. But whole life is just that. It's a little more expensive, but it covers you indefinitely as long as you are, paying your premium. Okay. You don't have to renew. There's different, of course, criteria for getting whole life and getting term. The examinations and those kind of things are different. And so, the decision to, do one over the other is really based on where you're at in your life and what your options are as far as what the organization is providing to you. Okay. But you can also get, supplementary or auxiliary life insurance on your own, right? You can have as many life insurance policies as you like, as long as you're paying the premium, it's okay. You can have a couple terms, you have one whole life, or maybe you just have one whole life, and that's just what you have. But you can buy those from any other exchange, right? Any other insurance, just State Farm, Geico, from the bank, you can buy life insurance from anywhere and have as many policies as you want to have, right? So let's talk about some health and wellness here, right? The companies are really focusing on health and wellness and being more proactive in trying to make sure that people are maintaining a healthy lifestyle because that's been shown to have a direct impact on the health costs for the organizations, right? And so I'd rather spend a little bit of money up front and provide some wellness and some other uh, health related activities, than wait till the person gets sick and then have to pay an astronomical bill later on down the line. Okay. All right. So many companies offer wellness programs such as yoga classes to encourage employees to reduce their health risks as insurance claims climb for both workers and employees. All right. So as you can tell, right, if I'm more proactive in making sure my workforce is healthy and is living a healthy lifestyle, that will in turn reduce my long-term healthcare costs down the road, right? Disability insurance, short-term disability insurance, and long-term disability insurance, right? The short term is percentage of employee salary paid as benefits for 6 months or less. Long term percentage of employee salary paid as benefits after the initial period and potentially for the rest of employees' life. Employers can also offer long term care insurance, right? And so, really, the two differences are, hey, hurt myself on the job, but I'm going to recover. So, I'm getting some short term disability insurance. Long term is really for those situations where maybe there was a limb loss of eyesight, something to where I will not be able to work, or the employee will no longer be able to work in the same way that they were before. And it's really a lifestyle change, right? There's a huge lifestyle change. And so they will get disability for the remainder of their life and will not have to work, right? In most cases, they cannot work. They will receive disability. And so they become ineligible to work and are no longer part of the labor force. Okay, so we look at this figure here, and we look at the source of income for person 65 and over. Okay, so talking about a little older crowd, but you can see where they're getting the money, right? At 65, really considered, basically um, out of the workforce, right? We don't really count you in the workforce. And so, how do you make your money? Okay, you can tell between Social Security and earnings, that is a large portion of the income for person 65 and older, right? They were smart. They did a few things, had some investments and pensions and annuities, set themselves up. Then they have a pretty decent stream of income, okay, every month that will make sure that they can sustain their lifestyle. And that's the thing, doing, all these retirement type activities, the earlier you start, better, even if it's, $20 or $30 a month or $40 a month, $50 a month. And then every time you get promoted or start making more money, you allocate more of those funds towards your retirement. Over 20, 30 years, it grows to a pretty good amount, based on compound interest and some of the other things out there. And depends on what you put it in. Okay. So you can see this person, or this is a what kind of a well-rounded approach to your retirement fund. Okay. So you got some different retirement plans, right? Contributory plan funded by employer and employee, non-contributory plan funded entirely by employer. Defined benefit plan guarantees specified level of requirement income. Okay. So meets requirements employment retirement income security act and aided by the pension benefit guarantee corporation, right? So basically, if you contribute to your own retirement, what happens is there's a matching that goes on by the employer, excuse me, right? So if the employer has a retirement plan, it's contributory, then they're gonna put in 50 cents, or they'll match whatever you decide, whatever portion of your income you decide you want to deposit into your retirement, right? So if you say 5%, they'll match up to 5% of those funds. Um, and then sometimes they have a further breakdown. They'll go 5%, and within that 5%, the first 50% is dollar for dollar. The next 25% is 50 cent to a dollar, and the next 25% is 25 to a dollar, right? So it gradually decreases, right? As depending on how the company has it set up, right? Non-contributory plan funded entirely by employer. This is where the employer usually kind of falls into the pension, but this is where the employee has nothing to do with their retirement. The employer is paying on paying into that for everybody. Excuse me. All right. So the defined contribution plan, employer sets up account for each employee, specifies size of contribution in their account. Okay. Cash balance plans, employer sets up account for each employee, contributes percentage of employee salary, right? And so basically in those plans, like I said, the employer will, match what the employee deposits. And so the more you deposit, the more that the employer is going to put in to a certain degree, right? Looking at value of savings, different invest at different ages, right? As you can see, aging when $3,000 is saved annually, right? Here you can see that age 21 to 29, okay? Are you retirement savings? Okay. So this is really a comparison to show you why it's beneficial to start saving earlier, okay? And this is really, at the end of the day, a function of time, right? 21 to 29, right? You are here, you're making your money, but if you start earlier in these times right here, right, your money tends to grow faster by the time you get to 60 because it's had more time to really grow and to and to mature, right? Whereas if you wait and you don't start saving until you're 31 and 39, right, there's less time for the money to grow, and we're using 65 as our age of retirement, right? You have less time for the money to grow, right? And so you have to be more aggressive in the things that you invest in, and you look for high interest rates and higher yields, right? But you can see that there's a huge difference. So the earlier you start, the better. Okay. Uh, Government requires investing and communication. Okay. Vesting rights. When employees become participants in pension plans and work a specified number of years, they are guaranteed to receive pension and retirement regardless of if they remain with the employer, right? And so when you vest, right, you're basically putting money into yourself, and you are, locked in sort of to that particular amount of money, right? So no matter what happens, if you're vested, whether you stay with the company, you leave, that money comes with you. Okay, you can take that money with you. Okay, so it is always, beneficial if you plan on staying with the company. The longer you stay with the company, the better your vesting rights are, right? The more money you're gonna make. Okay, vesting really is a long-term game, but at the end of the day, it's about having something to take with you, regardless of how long you stay with the company, right? So some people may go to a company, work 5 years, and then they leave and they have nothing to show for it, right? So it's beneficial if you invest, and at least if you leave the company, you leave with something and not just no funds whatsoever. Summary plan description report that describes pension plans funding, eligibility requirements, risks, and other details. Individual benefit statement describes employees' vested and unvested benefits, right? So basically, it's just your summary that kind of shows what's going on, how much you have, how much the company is contributing as compared to what you're putting in, and just keeping track of how it's accumulating and how it's growing, right? You got some family-friendly benefits, right? Family leave, child care, college savings, elder care. So we got some stuff that, not all companies offer, but when they do offer them, they're really great benefits to have, and able to, kind of round out a compensation package. Some other benefits: subsidized cafeterias, on-site healthcare services, fitness centers, dry cleaning, moving relocation, tuition reimbursement, deals with professional organizations, off-site company recreation, right? These are super important to a lot of people. And subsidized cafeterias, you may not think is a big deal, but if you're at work and your job or your organization has the ability to provide, on campus or on site, cafeteria, it normally a pretty good deal, right? You get great meals, healthy meals, lots of options at a very low cost. So it's okay. All right. Healthcare services, okay, fitness service, fitness centers, skin and dry cleaning. And those are a little bit more unusual, but worked at Toyota and we had all those things. They had healthcare services to include a psychiatrist and psychologist on site. We also had a huge fitness center, Olympic sized pool, and we had a dry cleaner on campus and a daycare. And so, but it's Toyota. So you have, some of these bigger companies that have those things because their aim is really to have everything there for the employee so the employee doesn't have to leave campus. Okay. Because once you leave campus, the likelihood of you coming back after you've done all your errands and that kind of thing are very low. Okay. So if I can keep you on campus, then that cuts out some time that you're going to waste in traffic and driving and doing all this other stuff, cuts out the stress. And so you can just stay there and, have everything you need. You can work out, get your lunch, go see the doctor if you need to for something minor, and you can pick up your dry cleaning. All right. And some other stuff, that are important to employees. Tuition reimbursement is one of those things that have been really good. And moving relocation, of course, if you are trying to hire someone on or retain them, even and you're going to move them, having those benefits helps a lot when it comes to employees and them moving because of the job. Okay. So, how do I, as an organization, pick the employee benefits, right? It's really about the organization's objectives, right? Decisions about benefits should take into account the goals, objectives, and the budget of the organization, right? The expectations of current employees and prospective recruits. So basically, what do I think as a company is going to be attractive to the people that I have working for me and people that I want working for me, right? What's going to bring them in the door? What's going to keep them home? What's going to keep them working for me? Okay. An organization that does not offer expected benefits will have difficulty attracting and keeping employees, right? Recruiting is tough when you don't have some of these benefits that other companies have, right? They're going to get the cream of the crop, or they're going to get the bulk, the preponderance of the available candidate pool because they are offering these benefits that are very attractive and make a big difference, and not necessarily monetary compensation, but it's just as valuable. Okay. Employees' expectation and values. Employees expect to receive benefits that are legally required and widely available. They value benefits that are likely to use. Value differs from one employee to the other, right? And so again, employee benefits, and trying to decide what works and what doesn't work is very subjective. You have to really think about individuals. You can break them up into groups and say, okay, well, I think this group of folks are going to want this type of benefit. This set of people are going to want this type of benefit. So you really have to kind of pick, from an employer standpoint, you got to pick ones that are attractive in the general sense that the majority of people will find, attractive. Okay. Organizations can offer flexible benefit plan in place of a single benefits package for all employees, addresses differences in employee needs, and empowers employees, right? And then, we have the cafeteria style plan we talked about as far as, having access to, lunch, breakfast, or even dinner on site, right? Different packages that are provided to employees. Maybe they have access to just lunch. Maybe they want breakfast, or maybe they don't want either. Just want access to, water and drinks and coffee and that kind of thing, right? So that's different from each employee. Okay. The cost when it comes to, how much it is for these employee benefits, right? You're really trying to save costs wherever you can as an organization when it comes to employee benefits. So some approaches companies can employ is that the shift from traditional health insurance to PPOs and CDHPs, right? So you get away from, just a broad-based coverage and more towards a specific, like, hey, pay as you go type thing, right? Pay as you use PPO, something to that effect, right? Shift more the cost to employees, right? And start increasing some of these medical policies premiums, right? So that now employees are carrying more of the cost, and that offsets the money's cost for the employer, right? Exclude limit coverage for certain types of claims. This is where you really kind of run into the issue and understand how much it costs for employees, because now there's a lot of things that maybe are missing out of the coverage that you may want, right? You can only do certain things. You can only get, an eye exam once a year and you have to pay 50%, or you can only go to the doctor to get a physical once every 2 years, and you can only do certain exams. So you have to really look at the fine print to figure out what is, doable and what's not doable when it comes to some of these benefits that the employer is providing. Learn which provides and treatments deliver the best value, right? And so really trying to get the most bang for your buck. And so employers really, scour the market to, when it comes to, brokers, insurance brokers, and those guys to try to find the best deal that provides the most for the employees. Okay. Legal requirements for employee benefits, right? Tax treatment of benefits. Qualified plans are more favorable tax treatment of benefits. Employees may immediately take tax deduction contributions. No immediate tax on employee for amount employee contributes. Tax-free earnings on money in retirement fund, right? Plan must meet certain requirements to be qualified, right? And so, as an employee, there's certain tax, concessions that I'll receive that, I may have to pay down later on down the line, but some tax deductions, excuse me, I can take right away, and that will be reflected in my pay, right? And so, depending on how you fill out your W-4, and you put out how many exemptions you want, that kind of thing, um, that will kind of dictate your benefits, and also some of the nuances of your benefit plan and how much um, the employer is contributing as compared to how much you're contributing. Okay. Anti-discrimination laws, right? Intend to provide equal employment opportunity without regard to race, sex, age, has been several other protected categories, right? We're back to, Title VII, right? CRA 1964, Title VII, Pregnancy and Discrimination Act, ADEA, Older Workers Benefit Protection Act, and ADA, right? So we kind of talked about all these particular other acts and what and who they protect, right? Pregnancy, of course, protects women that are pregnant and make sure that they get fair treatment, regardless if they're pregnant or not. Age discrimination, that's for people 55 and over, I believe, to make sure that they don't get discriminated because of their age and people not wanting to take on a bit of an older candidate. Okay, same thing with Older Workers Benefit Protection Act 1990, kind of the same thing, right? Making sure we protect people that are a little bit older, but still want to get into the labor force, right? Still want to work and still feel that they can contribute in a positive way. Some accounting requirements, right? The Financial Accounting Standards Board sets requirements for companies' financial statements. Ensures that statements are true picture of financial status. Employees must set aside funds they expect to need for benefits to be paid after retirement. Statement must list funds for retirement as future cost obligations, right? So some of the biggest costs for companies and costs that can really back up a company is retirement funds, right? Pensions. And so we've seen a shift in the labor market from regular pensions, from where you work 20, 30 years and then you're guaranteed a certain amount of money until you expire. Now we've shifted to more 401ks and mutual funds where the employee is now more responsible for their retirement and what it looks like, right? So now the onus is on the employee to say, well, I'm going to contribute, 10%, 15%, 20% of my income towards my retirement. And that accumulates, and it's no longer 100% on the employer to provide you with your retirement benefits, right? And so that offsets some of the long-term costs, because think about a company that's been around 30, 40 years and employs 1,000 people, and maybe 1 or 2% of that retire every year, and you have to pay them a retirement, a certain amount of money till they die, right? those are long-term costs that, companies have to have some um, working savings account or working some investments that are created and built up and specifically designed to offset the cost of retirement, right? And when you get into the details of that, with most companies, they all have different funds that they invest in that are strictly allocated towards retirement, right? These are retirement fund type investments, and this is used to pay off the retirements of the people that used to work for us, right? Okay. So communication essentials, employees must be given information about benefits necessary to attract, motivate, and retain talent. It's difficult for employees and applicants to understand the values and benefits, so companies must help. Employers can use a variety of media to communicate. So basically, we want to make sure that employees understand what their rights are, what benefits they have access to, the details of those benefits, the cost of those benefits, when do those benefits expire, what are some of the criteria in which you can, use the benefits. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And especially when you're explaining the different type of, benefits and some of the nuances of investing and what it means to do, maybe a 1% versus 5%, contribution, and when can you take it out? What can you use it for? So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So it's important that companies communicate those things to their employees in an understandable way, right? And so usually the the company that is hired on by the organization has literature that they'll pass out or emails they'll send out to the employees explaining all the details about their particular um, benefits and whatever they chose and what comes with that. Okay. All right. So at this point, this concludes this week's brief. Again, if you have any questions, comments, need some assistance, please feel free to email me. If it's time sensitive, text me or even call me if it's that serious. Make sure we get your work in. Okay. It's week 7. We're pretty much in the final stretch here. So, we want to finish out with a bang. So do your best to, get your work in. If you have something that you haven't submitted, it's late, and you want me to consider it for credit, send me an email, and I'll just ask me to open up the assignment. I'll open it up, depending on what it is, and so you can get that working, so you get some credit. Okay. Aside from that, have a good week, and I will see you next week.